Shlomo came down to Shlomo when he was. This was back in Channukah, 1982. Okay. What page did we stop on? I think we're, you remember?
138.
Yeah, we did, yeah, so we're on 139 today. Okay, Hayahadut hi habayit.
I don't think we finished this.
No, we didn't finish? Okay. Okay, so right. We're on 138. Okay. Not far.
Save your seat, please. Have your seat right here.
We'll make the table like that instead of like that.
Like,
Yeah, a bit more like that.
like this?
That's perfect.
Perfect. Bavakasha.
Okay, so we're on 138. We started this piece yesterday, and this was about the holiness of the house. And we learned that what does it mean? What is a house? A house is like your permanent residence. It's the place where your light, your beyond is illuminating. You feel safe to have your full being come out in your house, right? Unfortunately, some people, it's their negative side that comes out in the house more than their positive side, right? I was walking to shul one day and I heard this woman screaming at her kid. It was so terrible. I felt like knocking on the door and, rescuing that kid. Because so we're talking about the opposite of it, right? Some people think that that at home they can scream and they can do whatever they want. It's their home. They can do they can talk however they want. And what the holy side of it is that in your home you should feel comfortable. You should feel comfortable that your deepest, most beautiful self should manifest. Okay, so and you really get to know somebody when you're in their house, right? That's where you really get to know them better than when they're in the street, because in the street they're just behaving according to what's expected of them. So we're on page 138, the third line. It's clear to me and to you that children are the ones who need a house most of all. You know why? Because children are beyond themselves until we come along and cut their wings, God forbid. Children are beyond. And the Shema Shelahem Meira, their soul is shining. V'lachen hem kol kach tzrichim bayit. So that's why they so much need a house, a place to feel comfortable that they can do this. You know, to give. I daven at this minyan in the neighborhood during the week, and there's this one guy that sometimes brings his little boy along, like 4 or 5, you know, and it's just so obvious to see the difference between how a child behaves and how an adult behaves. The kid is walking around, he's happy, he'll talk to somebody, he's got a couple of little toys that he's playing with. You know, he's just happy. And the adults are all busy with doing what they're supposed to be doing. You know, that type of thing. Okay, so of course you have to grow up and so on. But the problem is that you know, a lot of children's their wings get cut. You know, they don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. Behave yourself, behave yourself. When I was in grade 1, I was in the choir of the school. And the poor choir master had a lot of trouble getting me to just stand still while we were singing. Because when we were singing, I was like, you know, I couldn't stand still, you know. And I wasn't being bad, you know, it's just that you know, the kids naturally do that, and then we tell them, no, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, and we're cutting their wings all the time, you know. So kids need a house most of all. That's why at the end of the day, when the school bell rings,
right. Maybe a child comes to school, he should not be a Vilna.
That's for sure. Depends where. In other words, I agree. The child should not be a Vilna Chaya in Shula, you know. So all I'm illustrating is that, yes, we have to learn how to behave appropriately in the right places, but we have to learn that without cutting the child's wings. In other words, because in other words, there's a yeshiva in town, okay, that a number of people have come here from that yeshiva, and they told me that they can't stay there anymore because they feel that they're being choked. Okay, now these are adults. Okay, they feel they're being choked. In other words, they feel like don't bother sharing your ideas and your thoughts and your this and your that. We're not interested in that. Just sit here and listen to what we got to tell you. It's called clipping the wings. Like, you know, like what do you think? I spent the last 25 years of my life before coming here that I was just an idiot. And now, you know, that type of thing. You know, or a child who can't sit still for more than 15 minutes at a time. In kindergarten, they still do that. They'll give children an opportunity to get up and to do something and so on and so on. Right? Once they get to grade 1, it's already becoming like, you know, like this training to just sit still, sit still, sit still. And it's a classroom management technique, but be careful, like, you know, don't cut the kids' wings. Okay? So children really need a home, and like everybody does, but they need it most of all. Habayit sheli, we're in the middle of the page. Habayit sheli hu hamakom hayachid bo ani yachol liyot bemet ma shani rotze liyot. My house is the one place that I can really be that which I want to be. רק בבית שלי אני יכול להיות מעבר לעצמי. In my house I can be beyond myself. I'll give you another example, Michal. Let's say it's you're davening chakras, right? And you really feel like singing now. You know, you feel inspired. You know, whatever it is, you're in the middle of davening. You came across the verse. You really feel like singing and everything, right? in shul, you're not likely to be able to do that, right? At home, you can do that. And that's the, you want to get into that? It's the top latch, turns to the left, right? So you're right. You can't do everything in shul. That's not the point. It's not that you should be able to do whatever you feel like doing in shul. The point is that to understand what a house really is, that a house is a place for where you feel comfortable to manifest yourself in the highest way. Okay? רק בבית המשהו הכל כך קדוש שבנו יכול להעיר. Only in a house. Now it could be that your shul is also like your house. You understand? And that's, but it's only in a house, the figurative house, okay, is where that so special, unique, holy part of you can come and shine forth. And then when the whole world is going to be a bayit, why don't you just take one of these?
Oh, okay. I'll do that.
No, it's okay. He's got his stuff. Just take one of these, and that's all. Okay, so when the whole world will be the house of God, then we'll be able to be beyond ourselves on a regular, continuous basis, both in the house and in the street. But right now, it's not like that. Madua, 138. Why are we afraid to be beyond, outside the house? Because the world isn't ready for it. The world isn't ready for people reaching to their beyond. When I'm walking in the street, I can't allow myself to really be beyond. And, if you're going to walk around in the street, dancing in the street, don't be surprised if the cops are going to be following you. I'm serious.
Even more than that, some places, if you're walking on the street, cops will
Yeah. So
this
unfortunately, the world is not ready for that, right? So one of the things I discover on Channukah is that I have a house. So I discovered that I have a place in which I'm beyond myself, a permanent place. And there I shine. And by finding that house within myself, the house that I'm within, and finding that I have that space in which to shine, from there I illuminate into the street. And every day I add some light. Okay, so what we need to understand over here is this. In the last 3 lines, the last five lines, Reb Shlomo basically took a halacha about Channukah and translated it into what is this halacha trying to tell me about what I need to be achieving within myself. Okay? So everybody knows the halacha, that everybody knows the story. We found that krug of pure oil, etc., right? And by the way, we're not on the same page, Shai. You realize that?
So
that's okay, fine. Just in case you didn't know. Okay. And then we have to light a candle each day. And if you're doing Mahadrin, you light 1 and then 2 on the second day and then 3 on the third day. And that you place the menorah at the entrance of the house, right? Or at a window where it's going to be visible to the outside. So what he did is that krug of oil, that krug of pure oil is basically to get in touch with that part of yourself that is the most holy, that is the most special part of your being, right? When you find that, you are to illuminate it. Where do you find that? You have to be in a house. You have to be in a place where you feel, this is my house. Here's where I can really allow myself to be in touch with my essence, with who I really am. And when you find that and you illuminate that, you in other words, you are shining. And not only are you shining, but the mitzvah is to illuminate the whole world with your light. Okay. So halacha is to be understood, A, as defining how and what we're supposed to be doing, and B, no less important, is to try to understand what is this halacha trying to teach me. It's not just telling me what I should be doing, it's trying to teach me something about myself, something that should be taking place within me. Seder?
As we were reading this earlier, I got the notion there is one line here somewhere. It says that the whole world is God's house.
There will come a day when the whole world will be God's house. Meaning to say, what he's talking about over here is that there will come a day that you'll feel just as at home in the street as you feel in your house.
Is that what David Melech meant? That he said, Shivisi Hashem
Shivisi or Kibesi based Tefillah Yikore L'chol Ha'amim, right?
Because one feels at home and house one can manifest who one is. So maybe
that's what he's talking about. To let me put it this way. Now, when you want to think about the Rebbeinu Shalom, right, you try to find yourself a place that is either whether it's in your shul or whether it's in your house or some kind of a place where the outside world doesn't interfere, whether intentionally or unintentionally, but it doesn't interfere with your thinking about and connecting with Hashem, right? But generally speaking, in halacha, we speak about Reshut HaRabim and Reshut HaYachid, right? Mm-hmm. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe very often used to speak about making the Reshut HaRabim into Reshut HaYachid. Reshut HaRabim is public domain, and Reshut HaYachid is a private domain. So when he would speak about making the Reshut HaRabim into Reshut HaYachid, in other words, it should be, so in your house, it's your private domain, this is your space, this is where everything in your house is there because that's what's reflecting on who you are, what you are, and so on and so on. The outside in the street, it's a whole different story, right? It's not your private domain. So what the Rebbe was talking about was making the Reshut HaRabim into Reshut HaYachid, and making it all into the domain of the singular one. In other words, that it should be that God should be as visibly present in the street as he is in your heart, as he is in your home, and so on.
And
Is it an age thing? Because the way that I feel now, I go along with what you're saying. I am more or less in the street as I am at home. But I wasn't this way.
In the past.
When I was-
Yeah, of course. And that's so it's not necessarily an age thing, but yes, we do mature to, hopefully. I remember when I had a summer job in Ottawa in 1969, and the head of the JCC came over to me one day and he says, "You shouldn't be wearing a yarmulke in the street." I said, "Why not?" He says, "Because it's going to arouse anti-Semitism." Because this in Ottawa, it was not yet seen on a regular basis to see Jews with a yarmulke in the street. Anyway, the street is, and a lot of Yidden have this very problem of, throughout all ages, and maybe all of us have this very problem of, don't be so Jewish. You're too Jewish, This is actually the story of Channukah. That the Hellenists, the Jews who believed in Hellenizing and adopting Greek practices, etc.
Jewish laws.
The Jewish, the Hellenists, they said, yeah, we're Jewish, but don't be so Jewish. Don't be, adopt some Greek practices. Make a melange. There's a, I don't remember the name of the rabbi, but in the Talmud, this Greek officer asks one of the rabbis, "How do you preserve the afterbirth from a mule?"
Why would you want to?
Never mind why would you want it. This was the question he asked. So he said to him, let's see, what did he say? He said, you would preserve it. I'm not remembering it completely. It's from a long time ago. No. Sorry, it goes like this. He says, how do you preserve salt that's rotting? Mm-hmm. So he said that you take the afterbirth, when a mule gives birth, you take the afterbirth and add and put it with the salt, and it won't rot.
Who said that?
The rabbi.
Rabbis.
So the Greek fellow said, but a mule doesn't give birth. The rabbi said, and salt doesn't rot. Huh?
I was gonna say, but salt doesn't rot.
Okay. So I saw. So that's a little medrash in the Talmud. So I saw, this rabbi wrote an article explaining this. He says that basically the Greek guy was saying to the rabbi, you claim that your Torah is the preservative of the Jewish people, but it seems to be rotting, right? Therefore, it's the recommendation of the Hellenists to take your Yiddishkeit and to modernize it, adopt a few Greek practices, do this and do that, and bring the organ into the shul, and whatever it might be, right? And modernize your Judaism, and that way you'll have something better. And the rabbi said, well, you think that it's that what our religion is our way of life is decaying. I'll tell you how you preserve it. You take the afterbirth of a mule. Now, a mule is the product of the breeding of a horse and a donkey, right? It has certain advantages over the horse as a work animal, and it has certain advantages over the donkey as in terms of its strength. Okay, so it's like an excellent animal for plowing and for certain things. but the mule is actually a freak of nature. It doesn't reproduce. Okay. So the rabbi says to him, you take the afterbirth of a mule. When a mule gives birth, you'll take that afterbirth and add it to the salt. And the Greek says, but a mule doesn't give birth. So the rabbi says, that's right, and salt doesn't rot. Now, what you're suggesting, that we keep some aspects of Judaism, and we introduce some Greek ideas, like, some Greek practices and so on. So maybe for one generation, you'll have more people coming into the synagogues, right? It'll be popular, etc., etc. But the problem is, it's not going to reproduce, right? And that's, so Channukah was, in a certain sense, quite a religious rebellion against the Hellenists who were trying to introduce practices of the Greeks that would basically cause a generation of mules. It would bring about a generation of popular religion, but it wouldn't reproduce. And the Maccabees, who did this whole rebellion, their rebellion was, no, you got to find your deepest essence connection with the Rebbeinu Shalom and illuminate that. You got to be you. The Jewish people we have to be the Jews that we're meant to be. We're not here to mimic others because we want to be more popular. Okay. So, yes.
I think that there's something that may not be obvious to the Jews who grew up with this kind of a modern mixed culture. There's many people who think that religion is to be found in the synagogue, Judaism is to be found in the synagogue, and not in the home. There are many Jews who keep whatever they keep in shul, but at home they don't really keep it. And what this chapter is talking about here is that the home is really the most essential place.
Well, you were reading ahead.
I was reading back.
I'm just telling you, but you were also reading ahead. We're getting to
I
that.
didn't read ahead yet.
So what's your question?
I'm saying that this is making a point which is not so obvious, because people tend to compartmentalize religion, especially Jews, and they say, Judaism, this is what I do here, but what I do in my own home, that's private. And this is saying, no, the source of the greatest holiness, the holy of holies, is in my home, even more than in the shul.
Right.
And that's not so obvious to many people. That's what I'm saying.
So it's okay. So it's not a question. It's okay. It's good.
I mean, it's a question because
it's not
that's
a question
people ask, but I'm asking.
No, it's not.
I agree with that point.
That's right. You said something that's totally valid. Okay. and unfortunately, what you said is true. Okay. And I think before you came in, people also they think, instead of the home being the place where your deepest, truest self is, positive self is coming out, a lot of people let their negative self out, more at home, and which ruins the home. Okay. Hayadut hi abayit, page 139. Judaism is the home. Im yesh li bayit amiti, if I have a real home, be'ezeshehu ofen ani nimtza bo tamid, then somehow I'm always at home. Gam keshefizit ani lo nimtza bo, even when I'm physically not in the house, I'm in my house. If I have a true home, right? Im yesh li bayit be'emet, if I really have a home, אני יכול לנסוע לאוסטרליה לשנתיים, I can travel to Australia for 2 years. ואף על פי כן, ביתי נשאר ביתי, and nevertheless my house remains my house. אני יכול לגור בדרום אפריקה במשך 20 שנה, אבל ביתי נשאר כאן תמיד, but my home still remains over here permanently. מדוע נר חנוכה עומד ליד הדלת מבחוץ? So now he's bringing us another idea. Why do we put the Hanukkah candle at the entrance of the house so that it illuminates outwardly? כי בית אמיתי מחמם אותי ומאיר לי גם כשאני יוצא החוצה. This is to signify that a true home keeps me warm and illuminates my path even when I'm going outside of the home.
I'm leaving tonight.
Oh yeah? Like you're with your mother, right?
Yeah, so this is very important.
How long are you going for?
We wait, coming back a week Thursday.
כשאנחנו מדליקים נר חנוכה ליד פתח הבית, when we light the Hanukkah candle at the entrance, אנחנו אומרים לילדים שלנו, ילדים אהובים, our beloved children, גם אחרי כשתגדלו ותעזבו את הבית, even when after you grow up and leave the house, גם אחרי שתקימו את ביתכם שלכם, even when you establish your own homes, האור של הבית הזה תמיד ילווה אתכם, the light of this house will always accompany you. והאור הזה המאיר בביתי הוא אור החנוכה, האור שמעבר. So which is that light that is the light of my home? Again, like we mentioned it earlier, it's the light of Chanukah, it's the light of beyond. In other words, in all the people that you've encountered in your lives, many people have spoken to you, but there are some that spoke with you, maybe just a few words, but you just never forget them, right? Could be that somebody else gave you a whole speech and spoke with you over many, many years, and now you don't even remember whatever they spoke about. And then somebody spoke with you back in grade 1 or grade 5 or whatever it is, and that you remember, right? Why? Because, and there's more than one answer, okay, but one of the reasons is that when somebody talks to you from their true depth, in other words, when they're really connected with their true depth, you hear it, right? דברים היוצאים מן הלב נכנסים אל הלב. Words that come from the heart enter the heart. Okay? So if you had one teacher that spoke to you from their heart, you're going to remember what they said. Okay? And so what he's saying over here is like this: what your kids grow up, they move out, they make their own homes, right? What are they going to take with them? What light did you give them in your home that they will actually be able to take with them? The light of Hanukkah, meaning to say, the light that you desperately were looking for within yourself, that little cruise of pure oil that you were looking for so desperately until you found it. And then when you found it and you shared that light, that's the light that your kids are going to be taking with you wherever they go. So first day here, she's already opening the door for everybody. Thank you.
It's a very special person.
No?
But a parent doesn't know the influence they have on their child.
Unfortunately. Unfortunately. There's another book around somewhere here. I don't know if I took her email last time, so make sure you put it down, okay? Right? Like you need to have a community of conscious people so that when people get married, they have a little bit of consciousness about what getting married is about and what having children is about, and so on, right? The olam hazeh of this world is you're getting married. Like the first thing is let's open up a gift registry at the wedding store, and it's all about the caterer and the flowers and so on. And not that those things aren't important, but they become so pervasive, right? That it's so out of touch with reality, what things are really all about. Apparently, I once saw this. There's this journal of, like a professional journal of caterers, and they have these competitions about who makes who made the most amazing, outstanding wedding type of thing. And one guy, one year, I happened to see this, and I don't even know why. How come I saw it? When I saw it, the guy that won, this party planner that won, the event that took the prize was that the bride walked down a 6-inch deep walkway of white rose petals that cost $80,000. $80,000. They spent $80,000 for her to walk down a walkway of rose petals.
Killed hundreds of thousands of roses.
Yeah, what they did with the roses, they didn't. The roses were going. Never mind that. The roses were going to die anyway. But that's not the point. But you know what you could do with $80,000? Speak to Mr. Federation here.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and that's like I'm sure that everybody came home from that wedding and they really had a new deep understanding of what getting married is about. So what I'm saying to you, Michal, is that unfortunately, this is what we're talking about, is that we're living in this olam hazeh where we get stuck in the klippas of the shells of life, and if all you're giving your children are the shells, right? Then when they make their own home, they're going to leave all that behind. If you want them to take something with them, if you want to give them something that they're going to take along for the rest of their lives, you need to find that cruel, that pach shemen, that shemen zayit zach, that pure, even if it's only one drop, and that one drop, when you really went through your guts to find it all, when you find it, that will last not only 8 days. Okay? That will last and last and last. Okay? You know the story in the Navi, the Isha Shunamit, the Eshet Hanavi, the wife of the prophet, comes to Elisha. We read it in the Haftarah a few weeks ago, right? And she comes and she says, "Is she mate? And my husband is dead, and you know that he was a real servant of God, and now I'm in debt. And the creditor is coming, and he wants to take my children hostage, right? As slaves,
Venture.
and what am I supposed to do? And he says,
You went fast enough.
Tag team.
he knows you, he says. You know him? Yeah. And he says to the woman, he says, do you have anything left? And she says, all I have is one smear of oil. One little tiny bit of oil, just enough, like, like asuch shemen is called. And he says, okay, go and borrow all the vessels that you can borrow, all the empty vessels you can get, bring them home, shut the door, and take that one drop of oil and pour and pour and pour and pour. And Mama, she with her two children, and she gets, I don't know, a huge amount of empty vessels, and she does this. And when the last vessel is filled, her kid says there are no more vessels left, and that was when that one drop of oil was over, was finished. And she goes back to Elisha, and she says, what am I supposed to do with this? And he says, now go and sell the oil and pay off your debts, and the profit that you're left with, you'll have what to live with the rest of your life. So the Alter Rebbe explains this story as when she's in a metaphorical way. When she says she mates, when she's doing this, she's coming and she's saying, my fire, my passion in serving Hashem has died. Ishi means my husband, but it also could be read as Eish Shali, my fire. Okay. And she says, back in Shemayim, before my soul came down into this world, I was serving God with passion. I was like really close to Hashem. And now that I'm over here, like, it's gone. And the creditor, the Yetzer Hara, wants to take my two children as his slaves. The two children being my love and my fear. All human behavior is motivated by Ahava and Yirah. And whereas before my love and my fear were relating to God, now my creditor wants to enslave those, and that my love and my fear should be directed entirely to worldly matters. So Elisha, the Shekhinah says to her, do you have anything left? And she says, all I have left is a smear of oil. Meaning to say, all I have left is a memory of what it was like to serve Hashem with passion. So he says to her, go and get all the empty vessels that you can. Get all the mitzvahs that you did that are like empty vessels, that you did them without any passion. Go and collect them, bring them home, and start taking that little drop of oil and filling the empty vessels. In other words, sit down and yes, you did a mitzvah without passion. Meditate on it now and bring your memory of passion to the mitzvah that you did. And in that way, your children won't be enslaved to the creditor. So
Who says this?
the Alter Rebbe. So the how did we get into this? From something that Shaya said or whatever?
Oil.
We were talking about that oil, right? In other words, you want your children to take something with them when they leave your home, right? When they grow up. What they're going to take with them is if you manage to find that little drop of oil in yourself. That's that pure drop of oil, that oil that the entire Greek army could not contaminate, right? That one pure little thing within yourself, within your neshama, that nobody can destroy, but it's there lying buried in a state of exile under who knows how many mountains of crazy things that I've piled on it, that I've piled over it, right? When you desperately look for that and find it, that's the real. That's your real essence. That's your real light. And when you find that, you light your Channukah candles with that, and that the children are going to take with them. You know, I don't know if I told you this story or not, but even if I did, I'm telling it again. We had this friend back in Montreal, an elderly woman. She's not alive anymore. She was a teacher. In any case, she told us that one of her granddaughters was unfortunately was a quadriplegic, and she always, she was confined to a wheelchair always. And in those years, they didn't have the laws of public access ramps and things like that. So when she went to Jewish school, but it was a real thing because she had to be carried in every day and carried out at the end of the day, and so on and so on. In any case, she finished high school and she was looking for a university campus where she'd be able to have access to the buildings. And she found something in Ontario, in southern Ontario or whatever, where the buildings were all like one floor buildings and they were all like ground level, so you can get in and out and so on. So she applied to that school, and that's the one she went to. This was like a very waspy place or whatever, maybe Catholic, I don't know what, but and as far as she knew, she was the only Jew that she was there. It was this time of the year, right? You know what happens at this time of the year out there in the world? It's all green and red, right? It's like, what do they call those flowers and the poinsettias, the Christmas decorations, right? And she didn't grow up in a religious home and an observant home, but she was very Jewish, and she felt like I gotta do something Jewish. Okay, so being that it's Chanukah this time of the year as well, so she took a piece of yellow construction paper, cut out a menorah, and stuck the menorah on the door of her dormitory room. A couple of minutes goes by. This was, I think, an all-girls school. A couple of minutes go by, and there's a knock on the door. She opens the door. The girl says, "You too? Me too." Well, come on in. And a couple of minutes go by, and there's another knock on the door. And a couple of minutes go by, there's another knock on the door. Before she knew it, there were like 15, 20 girls in the room, all of them living in the secrecy of, like, in other words, they all kept it as a secret that they're Jewish, and they didn't know that anybody else there is Jewish. They thought they're the only ones. And what was it that brought them all together? That yellow construction paper menorah, right? So you see how powerful this miracle of Chanukah is. In other words, but what's really powerful about it is that the Jews who had total Mesirut Nefesh, total devotion to find the truest essence of Judaism, and that was the Judaism that they wanted, right? That was the Judaism that was the most real for them. When they found that light didn't give light for only 8 days. That light is giving light to this very day. Okay? So in other words, So beyond the story of the miracle of finding the oil and how long the oil lasts and so on, the real essence of Chanukah, the real lesson of Chanukah is find that oil within yourself. Right? So again, there's the halacha. This is what you do on Chanukah, right? You light candles. This is how you meant this. This is when you do it. This is the time of day to do it. This is how many you're supposed to light, etc., etc., etc. Right? Those are the halachot of Chanukah. The deeper aspect of it is you got to find your pure oil and then illuminate it. And then every day make its light even bigger and more expansive. Right? So he says that that's the holiness of your house. In your house, you have the opportunity to actually find your deepest self. And that means if you happen to have a brother or a sister that you're always fighting with, that's part of the way that you've got to find your deepest light.
What?
That's part of the process of finding your deepest light. Right? If your parents are fighting, that's part of the process of finding your deepest light. In other words, the fact that it looks like it's so dark doesn't mean that it's not there. It just means you have to look harder. You have to make more effort to find it. But it doesn't mean that it's not there. It's there. Okay. So he says, when you find this light in your house and you are in your real house, so then it will shine with you. It will go with you all over wherever you go. And it will continue and carry on to your children's homes. So whereas fourth last line. What makes my house a true house, an eternal house? Is it's the light that is shining in my house. That's what gives it permanence. And the light that is shining in my house is the light of Chanukah, that's the light beyond. This light of Chanukah is lit just for a few moments. But again, he's referring to a halacha that what's the minimum amount of time that the Chanukah lights should be burning? It's a half an hour, right? So this light is only lit for a half an hour, right? But nevertheless, apparently I'm not able to do more than that. This light remains protected in my house eternally. Okay. Mr. Shem tomorrow will finish this chapter. So we start at 139, 140, right? Okay, the Seder.
Say,
Thank you for coming.